Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel today. We're back on Le Mans Ultimate and we're back with a track guide at Le Mans in the GT3 category. I'm using the BMW for this track guide. Now if you do enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the Key 25 on YouTube, and hopefully we can help you find a little bit of lap time at Le Mans in GT3. So for this track guide, I am going to be using traction control settings on 4, 5, 7. We're running the default setup. It's taken from a top split race with default conditions. So the only changes we've made are to 4, 5, 7 on the traction control system, 4 being the main TC, 5 being the power cut, and 7 being the slip angle. We've also altered the brake bias to 50.8 and put the brake pressures up to 90% instead of 85% that the default brake pressures run. So you can try that out if you want to. But yeah, let's get into this. Let's hope this lap helps you out, and let's try and get you all faster on Le Mans Ultimate.
Nice, personal best.
So as you can see there, we managed to go over the line on a 359.1 in the BMW, all default setup conditions. Now the BMW is not the quickest car here, but this is the car that I was using when I set the lap. The Mercedes is a little bit quicker, but let's get into this guide and try and show you how to get the lap as quick as possible. So obviously make sure you get a good exit from the final corner. Now on the entry into this corner, use as much track width as you can because it reduces the angle that you're going to be hitting the brakes on as you come through this fast right hand corner, so you can get the car straightened up earlier, and then as soon as the car is straight, you're onto the brakes. You can see there with the arrow, onto the brakes before the total board on the right hand side. Now you're going to see as you turn in onto the left hand side here now, you can see the little signpost on the apex of the corner. You're aiming to get your left hand tyre quite close to that. So as you come in here, you can see that little signpost. Left hand tyre up onto the Astro. Right hand tyre needs to stay in with the white line though. If you go over the white line, you will get a track limit violation. So again, on the right hand corner, aiming that right hand tyre at that signpost. And again, on the exit here, you can get right up to them little track limit signs. But as long as you don't go too far over, you should get away without any track limits. Now through here, keeping the car all the way over to the right hand side. And then again, as soon as the car has straightened up, you're onto the brakes. Now, you're going to trail brake into this corner. You can see the trail braking going on. Left hand tyre right up to the curb. Now, I hit the curb a little bit too hard there. I would have rather been a little bit further away. And you can see I've compromised my entry here. I'd rather be where that red line is to get a better exit speed. But what we do is go into fourth gear a little bit early. That settles the rear down. But ideally, you want to be accelerating through third gear there. So lost a little bit of time in this first sector. Now you're coming up to the fast right-hand corner. We're going to use that TV on the left-hand side there as our braking reference, braking before that and aiming to get your right-hand tyre right over the curb here and then accelerate out the exit. Now, I wasn't too happy with this first sector as you're about to hear now.
Really struggling on that first sector for some reason, and I don't know why.
So the main reason we probably struggled was because of tyre pressures and temperatures in that first sector with this combination having no tyre warmers on. So as you're going down this main straight now, you need to be looking for the middle of the track. It's important that you run down the center because it's a little bit quicker to do so. You gain a little bit more top speed. Then as we come into the next braking zone, we're going to use them 100 boards in front of us there, braking short of the 100 boards. So you can see we're giving ourselves enough space to brake and get it slowed down, going down to fourth gear and starting to rotate it in just as we're past the 100 board, down to third gear. Now you want to get right up onto the curb and use all the track limits for it. Again, on this second part, downshift to second and then get the left-hand tyre right up onto the curb. You can see there your right tyre is pretty much on the white line, so really using the track limits. And then again on the exit, just get over the curb on the right hand side. It's all about the angle that you get over the white line to stop yourself getting the track penalty there. And again, on the straight, getting onto the middle of the straight so that you get the fastest speed down the straight. And then into the next braking zone before the next chicane, using the 100 board, braking dead on that 100 board. And now starting to rotate the car into the left-hand corner here. So down to third gear. Again, over the curb. Use all the track limits available. Use second gear to rotate it into this next right-hand corner with a little bit of braking input there to put the weight onto the front of the car. And then again, you can see right up onto the curb. Actually, left-hand tyre looks like it's over the white line there. And you will get away with that if you get it done right. And again, on the exit, you can really get over this curb and keep that car accelerating in a straight line.
It could also be of how you prepared the tyres, because sometimes you get more pressure in your tyres for the start of the lap. It's like if you get them higher, the pressure's up there and the temperature's like how they should be. Sometimes they're just better at the start.
So you can hear myself talking about what we've just mentioned with the tyre pressures as a possible reason. So for the next braking zone, after going down the centre of the straight again, we're using the red barrier there. You can see a little bit of red barrier as our brake reference into this tight right-hand corner. And pretty much as soon as we're level with that, onto the brakes. Now you're going to brake and let the car slowly go over to the left hand side of the track. Use the gears for the bit of rotation. So you're going to see here, as we're coming into this corner, we're starting to turn in already into this corner. We're going to use first gear to rotate it, and then back up to second gear and straight on the throttle to try and get that exit speed from this corner. Use some of the curb on the exit, a little bit wide there, got away with that, and then again getting the car into the middle of the track, but remembering that as you go through this straight there is little kinks, so keep the car to the shortest line possible through them kinks. Now into this fast right hand corner, you can see there we're going to start turning this in just after the green Astro on the left hand side. You want to get your right hand tyres close to the curb, so just before the end of the Astro we're actually onto the brakes, and then as we go through this corner what you're going to see is we're using brake and acceleration just to help stabilize the car. It's not always necessary, but specifically when you're running quite aggressive setups, if you're having setups you might use it a little bit more, but we are doing this for a little bit of extra safety here. It stabilizes the car, and then as soon as the car is in a straight line, a little bit more braking input, and then you can see we're rotating it before the end of the curb that you can see there, so turning it in before the end of the curb. Second gear for a bit of rotation. Missed the apex slightly there, had to be a bit patient on the throttle and lost a little bit of time here.
I was a bit slow.
So now for the next 90 degrees right hand corner, we're going to use the Goodyear sign and the 50 board as our braking reference, braking just short of them. So obviously with the Goodyear board, highly likely it's going to be removed in the race. The 50 board is a good reference as well. And then turning into this corner so that your right hand tyre is getting right up to the curb, so you're turning in quite early there, using the curb for your right hand tyre and on the throttle early. Now you want to be on the throttle early enough that you don't have to lift too much on the exit there. You can see just playing with the throttle about 90% just to stop the wheel spin, and then maximum throttle all the way out the exit there will help rotate the car with that first gear, and then accelerating all the way up this hill now, keeping the car over to the left here just for the shorter line possible, and then again back to the center of that track and then back over to the left hand side and then into this fast right hand corner. We're going to use the AstroTurf on the left hand side there, so you can see the start of the Astro is our reference for where we're going to be turning in and getting on the brakes. So you can see there just onto the brakes, pretty much dead level with the start of that Astro, and then rotating it in here. Be careful on your downshift into this corner. Too aggressive, the car will snap. Down to fourth gear, that'll help with the rotation, and then just be patient as you're going through here, because you don't want the car to drift out too far wide left, because then you're compromising your entry into this next left hand corner. So with this line now, we've got a good attacking point. We can get on that throttle and we can carry the speed right up to the wall on the right hand side. And then at this point here, you're going to again turn into this left hand corner quite early. You're basically aiming for the grass, but then the curb will appear. The left hand tyre will get up onto the curb, and then again you can see here off the throttle just before the curb, just to help let the car coast a bit for rotation. And then again you can see the little white line on the right hand side is a good reference for getting on the brakes. Onto the brakes here, let that car rotate with a bit of weight transfer to the front tyres, and then staying in fourth gear. Just a little bit of throttle as we go through here. You can see just dabbing the throttle slightly, and then until we're confident we can get a bit more aggressive with it. And then as soon as the car is in a straight line, we're putting a little bit of braking input in just before the Avis sign on the right hand side there, and turning in just before there. Now the left hand tyre ideally gets over the curb so you can get onto the throttle nice and early, carry that speed out the exit. Just be aware your left hand tyre needs to try and stay within that white line there, because otherwise you can invalidate the lap. And then accelerate all the way out the exit here, now into the tricky last technical sector with the chicane. So we're going to brake just in between the middle of this pit lane entry. You can see onto the brakes right in the middle of the pit lane entry and before the end of it there. So you can brake a little bit closer to that, but it does make it a little bit risky as you chop the car in. So playing it quite safe here. Maybe lost a tenth or so of how safe we took it. But again, as you're approaching here, you're turning nice and early and you're aiming for that track limit board with the left-hand tyre. You want to almost clip that and then clip the one on the right-hand side as well. So clipping on the right-hand side. You can see a little dab of brakes to help with the rotation as we're going through this second part of the chicane there. And that'll help get the car over to the right-hand side. So again, as soon as the car is in a straight line, we're onto the brakes, downshift into second, and then we're going to use first gear for a little bit of extra rotation, and then back up to second gear before we get to the curb. And you can see there just a little bit of acceleration input going in, and then off the throttle just before we get to the curb for the final part, then back onto the throttle, use some of the track width on the exit, over the line for a 359.1.
Nice, personal best.
Now remember, if this race is a rookie race, you will have tyre warmers on, so you will have a little bit more grip at the start of your lap. And do remember, if you are running this as an open setup race, that you will be carrying a little bit more speed into some of the braking zones, and the car will be a little bit sketchier probably in some of them corners. But hopefully this video will help you out. Give it a like, subscribe if you've enjoyed it, and I'll be back with more of these in the future. Thanks again for watching, everyone.